Hi everyone, Igor from Vinous Reverie. Today we got more great wines to open up, and we've got several countries. We're gonna have Italy, we're gonna have Spain, and we're gonna have Germany. So let's start with Germany first. All right. Okay, so the first producer, it's Gold Atzel. It's a producer based in the Rheingau region of Germany, and this is the Cabinet Fine Herb. So Fine Herb, it's like a lot of people have confusion with German names. You know, there's the name, there's the village name, there's the vineyard name, and then there's the dryness, ripeness levels. So Fine Herb, it kind of implies that there's a little bit of sweetness in it. So slight residual sugar. It's not trocken, which means dry. Fine Herb means a little bit of residual sugar, but it's very vague based on German customs. But you know, regardless of the customs, this is a very nice wine. All right, the next wine is from Fritz Haag in the middle of Moselle. So Fritz Haag is one of the most renowned producers of Riesling in the Moselle Valley. There's a lot of them, and Fritz Haag is among the best. So he's probably the most famous producer from the Braunberger village. So Braunberger village, it means brown mountain, and the reason it's called brown is because that's the name of the slate soil, the color of the slate soil. There's red slate, blue slate. They're famous slate soils that Riesling grows on. This is brown slate. So that's the name. Braunberger, Jufer. Jufer is the actual name of the vineyard. And this is a cabinet ripeness level Riesling. Getting really great press, like I said, great Riesling from a great producer. One of their more renowned wines. All right. Okay, that was the German wines. Now let's go to Spain. Okay, the first wine we have here is from Priorat. So Priorat is probably the most famous region in Spain for Grenache. It makes a very potent Grenache. There's also Grenache in right outside of Madrid in Sangredos Mountains. That's more like a Pinot West style wine, and it's getting a lot of acclaim. But Priorat is probably got on the map maybe 20 years ago. There's very few producers, relatively small region, and the wines are renowned, and they're usually on the higher price level. So this is from producer Terroir El Limit. And there's a little interesting backstory behind these wines and Priorat in general. So winemakers in Priorat, they want to think of themselves as kind of making Burgundy style wines. So Burgundy, you have a tier system. You have the village level wines, then you have the Premier Crus, and you have the Grand Crus. And obviously, the reason you call that is because the terroir, just like the name of this producer, Terroir El Limit, is what defines the wine. So village level wines, usually they're not the most complex. The Premier Cru wines are more complex, and Grand Cru obviously is the epitome of complexity. And the same thing with these guys. They have several vineyards. So this is their Toroja. This is their village level wine. But regardless, it's a village level wine. It's got great press. Got 94 points from James Suckling, and it got 93 points from the Wine Advocate. And this retails in the low 20s. So, a village level wine from Burgundy is not going to retail at this price point. Okay, the next one is from Montsant, which is a region right outside of Priorat. Also Grenache-based wines. The interesting point about that is they're really close together, and usually the price point is significantly different between Priorat and Montsant. Montsant is kind of the value region for Grenache in Spain. So this wine is from the producer Joanne Alquera. This is Finca El Gata. So this is actually one of their premium cuvées. This is not their entry level. It used to be a blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Cabernet. So it was more full-bodied wine, and it was Asian oak. But in the last few vintages, he decided to use less oak and go 100% Grenache to kind of showcase the fruit. And you know, the scores went along with it. So this the Wine Advocate gave this wine 94 points. I think it's a great Grenache for, you know, this retails in the low 30s, but I think the quality is spectacular for the price point. All right. And we have one more Spanish wine. This is from Bodega Aldonia, and this is from Rioja. So Rioja is the Tempranillo region of Spain. It's probably the most known region in Spain, and it's known that Tempranillo is the base wine there, with a little bit of Grenache. They call it Garnacha, and a little bit of Graciano. This comes from Rioja Baja, which is the easternmost part of Rioja, and that's actually dominated by Grenache more so than Tempranillo. And this is a blend of 60% Grenache, 40% Tempranillo. So you get a Rioja, but it's actually Grenache dominated Rioja. So, you know, here you go. We got 3 different Grenache-based wines from 3 different parts of Spain. And interesting tidbit, Tempranillo is kind of considered the most important grape from Spain, at least a red grape. Some people say it's kind of equivalent to Cabernets in Napa and Bordeaux, you know, the king of the grapes. But I've been reading more and more that people actually think that Grenache might be the most interesting grape coming out of Spain, not Tempranillo. So, you know, very interesting on that. All right, next we're going to go to Italy. So the first one is from Cantina Garrone. So this is very interesting wine. It comes from the Piedmont region, but it's the most mountainous part of Piedmont. So Piedmont, it's actually translated Piemonte, foot of the mountain. But these vineyards from this is the village of Valle of Solane. They're actually mountainous. They're over 1,700 feet in altitude. So. And this is a Nebbiolo-based wine, but it's 70% Nebbiolo. There's 20% Cantina, which is a local variety, and actually there's 10% Prurent. And Prurent is like a fascinating thing. You can't even find too much information on that grape. So it's a clone of Nebbiolo, but it's only grows in this part of Piedmont. And Cantina Garrone is kind of considered the producer of Valle of Solane, and they're a very renowned producer. So this is kind of their entry level cuvee, but it's a really nice wine. All right. Now we go to more familiar grapes. We have Rosso Montecino. So Rosso Montecino comes from Tuscany, from the town of Montecino. The most famous Italian Sangiovese-based wine is Brunello Montecino. Rosso is considered kind of baby Brunellos. They don't come from the prime grapes, nor are they aged as long. But if you want to get like a feeling of what Brunello might taste like at a lower price point, this is a great entry level wine. And what's interesting about this particular producer, Calasorbo, is that the Rossos are actually getting better press than their Brunellos. And I think this wine, and it's excellent. It's deep color wine. Sangiovese fluctuates all over the spectrum. First of all, there's 240 clones of Sangiovese, and even within Brunello, there's different varieties, because Tuscany is full of little towns. There's like rolling hills and a lot of microclimates, so you get expression of Sangiovese all over the place. But like I mentioned, this is a great wine. I've had it recently. and it's getting better press than their more prestigious Brunellos. And the last one, we also have a Sangiovese based wine, and it's actually a Chianti Classico. So Chianti Classico, probably, you know, outside of Brunellos, are the most famous wines out of Chianti. So the whole Chianti region makes a lot of wines, and then there's subzones. So if something says a Chianti on it, most likely it's not a complex wine. But if you have a subzone like Classico or Rufino, that's more better grapes grow in those regions, and more complex wines. So Classico is the most famous of the subregions, and Volpaia, it's one of the better producers. So, you know, this wine is also getting good press. Wine Enthusiast gave it 92 points, and it's gonna retail for like $20 or $21. So it's a really good point for Chianti Classico also. So, you know, these are the wines we have today. We got, you know, some interesting parts of Europe in here, so, you know, try them out. Excellent expressions of different regions, different soils, different